that are so concerned that you're going to get primaried and defeated, you know, there's time for mea culpa. You can come to a stick and condemn Senator Corker. And you can come to a stick, a microphone, and you can say, I am not going to vote for Mitch McConnell for majority leader.
Where does that leave the Republicans right now? Kurt?
Well, they're between a rock and a hard place because at the end of the day, Donald Trump is posturing to almost assume failure legislatively and putting that failure at the feet of Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is clearly going to be the boogeyman of this election. Steve Bannon, Breitbart, that wing of the Republican Party are essentially running against them, spending more time attacking them than even going after Democrats and trying to grow their majority. At the end of the day, I wonder if we're going to get to a point where Mitch McConnell is just going to outright say, you know what? I'm not going to run for leader next time. Remove that talking point away from Bannon and Breitbart, the alt-right.
Really? You think Mitch McConnell's going to say, I'm just going to go away?
I think that if he cares about keeping his majority and keeping the Republican Party in a reasonable position and not hijacked by the alt-right, he needs to just walk away right now and say, I'm not going to be the focal point of this campaign.
Michael Steele.
That ain't happening. You clearly know nothing about Mitch McConnell. At the end of the day, Mitch McConnell still controls the flow of legislation. If this administration wants anything done, it has to go through his door. And so the president and Bannon need to get their act together and recognize that, okay, fine, this is your one shot because you lose the Senate. There are going to be hearings on impeachment. There are going to be hearings on investigations. There are going to be a whole kinds of stuff that this team does not want, that Mitch McConnell can block right now. So I suspect that they need to recognize that the weight, as much as they hate the establishment, and I'm no fan of this crew because I had to work with them, at the end of the day, they control a lot more of the marbles on this table than you think they do.
But if Mitch McConnell's not going to walk away, and I agree with you 100% on that, Michael Steele, could he be forced out? Because this is what we heard from Lindsey Graham. Take a listen.
If we don't cut taxes and we don't eventually repeal and replace Obamacare, then we're going to lose across the board in the House in 2018. And all of my colleagues running in primaries in 2018 will probably get beat. It will be the end of Mitch McConnell as we know it.
Matt, does he have a good point?
Well, sure. I mean, it's the end of Mitch McConnell in terms of he won't be the majority leader because the Democrats will gain. But I don't think that there's a big bench of potential replacements here. They're just who are you going to call up? I mean, Tom Cotton is floated today as being a potential CIA director. So how many real Trumpites are out there? Steve Bannon wants to reshape the Republican Party, blow it up into this new kind of image. There's a lot of people, including Assistant to Vice President Pence, who have said, you know, it's more, we can have a minority here if it's a real rock-solid Trumpian minority. I think that's an agenda more than actually governing.
You wanted to say, Michael, I can tell you're dying to jump in here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, who's going to replace him? Who's going to be able to get through that legislative agenda that Bannon and the president want if Mitch McConnell's not there? Name me the senator who's going to step in to do that.
So you're the one who thinks that maybe the Mitch McConnell should walk away. Who's going to replace him?
Well, last night on Casey Hunt's news show, Chris McDaniel floated Mike Lee as the alternative to replace McConnell, that's the person they would line up behind. Remember, every single candidate that Bannon's backing, he's making them pledge that he will not support Mitch McConnell. They're going to run this campaign in a way where what Republicans did so effectively and so long, making Nancy Pelosi the boogeyman in elections, they're going to do the same thing to Mitch McConnell now. So my point is, why not disarm that? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying, why not just disarm that? Because right now, McConnell's literally between a rock and a hard place. Nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to pass. Trump is already postured to make it McConnell's fault when that happens. What's the virtue right now?
And where does Mike Lee get the votes? The Senate is still going to be the Senate. You're still going to have, you know, the Susan Collins of the Senate in the Senate, the John Thunes in the Senate.
There.
Where does Mike Lee get votes that Mitch McConnell can't get right now?
I think that comes down to the outcome of the election. If Bannon is successful in getting some of these candidates in office, will that scare Republicans into going a different direction? What we've seen so far from Republicans is they pretty much have no fortitude in standing up to Donald Trump and the insane things that he says every day and tweets out every day, except for the few that have said they're not running for re-election who magically have found courage now. So I don't have any faith that Republicans are going to magically, after an election where they might see some major losses from some of their fellow incumbents, have the fortitude to stand up to a new, more controlling alt-right.
Mike Lee is much more of an obstructionist to Donald Trump than almost any other Republican in the Senate. So if you're going to replace an obstructionist, you're going to really replace him with a bigger obstructionist. I would love to see it because Mike Lee, I think, is a pretty interesting guy, but it doesn't make any sense.
Well, you also have a situation here, Matt, where, you know, Kurt points this out, that there are people like Bob Corker who are not going to be running for re-election, which has sort of freed them. But is there a lesson for somebody watching and seeing somebody like Jeff Flake to say, there is no advantage for me to be very vocal against this president, or for that matter, for Mitch McConnell?
Jeff Flake wrote a book, 2 months ago about the conscience of conservatism. He's going to take but
he's also somebody who's voted with this president, what, 91, 92% of the time, and yet...
A lot of that's confirmation votes. I think that kind of skews what the... I agree he hasn't taken a leadership role in opposing some things that you'd think that he might, like the Obamacare reforms, but generally speaking, there's a lot of Republicans. You're thinking 10 Republicans did not, in the Senate, did not endorse Donald Trump for president last time. There is no love for that man in that building. So I think that you'll see more people locating their courage as Trump's opinion numbers continue to go down.
Michael, I don't want to let you go without asking you for analysis on Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who has decided that he's going to send a federal hate crimes attorney down to Iowa, where they had the murder of apparently a transgender student, 16-year-old Kadari Johnson. Obviously, Sessions, a staunch conservative, somebody who has been rolling back rights for trans individuals since he became Attorney General. What's going on with this, and what's the base going to make of it?
Well, I don't know what the base is going to make of it, but I think the Attorney General recognizes his obligation here. I mean, and so I think, yeah, it goes against type, and there may be something else that hasn't been revealed yet as to the why, but let's just applaud the effort, and hopefully, they will continue to back these kinds of cases despite his own personal views and positions on these things.
Kurt, really quickly, were you surprised to hear this?
I was, just given everything that you said, that Sessions at this point has been, if anything, a very much an enemy to the LGBTQ community. I don't think it will, because I don't think it's going to be played up that much. You're not going to be seeing a lot of coverage in the outlets that the base looks to. You're not going to see a lot of headlines about this, so I think it'll go unnoticed.
Kurt Bardella, Michael Steele, Matt Welch, always good to see you as well. Thank you, gentlemen.